up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as number one, Long Beach State going down at the hands of Hawaii. How did those do it, and what spurred them to help them win on senior night? Also, how about Stanford men's volleyball knocking off USC twice? What's going on with those Trojans, and who is out as of late for the men of Troy? Also, number one, TCU went down in beach volleyball as there might be a new number one in terms of NCAA beach volleyball. But who will be said number one at the end of this whole thing? Also, LLVB Austin, of all teams, wound up winning the LLVB championship over LLVB Omaha. Yes, Omaha and Austin, the two teams at the bottom of League One volleyball, make it to the final. Also, the San Diego Mojo pulled off an upset over the Omaha Supernovas, if you can believe that. Also, Huntington Beach's head coach Craig Devontae made some history last week, as I was there to witness it. Hamlin volleyball, some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way in episode 294 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio, providing the platform to go live on StreamYard or on Twitch. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're really trying to push for 500 subscribers by the end of this month, if not by June. And with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So please do subscribe to us on YouTube. It would greatly mean a lot to us. Also, make sure to follow us on our other podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, JioSaavn, Amazon Music. The list goes on and on. There's plenty to go around. Also Spotify, if I didn't mention it, but Spotify too. Also, make sure to check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop, where you can get t-shirts, tank tops, and hoodies, and so much more. Also, make sure to check out our Hall of Fame, where yours truly is Hall of Fame inductee number 10. And also check out our Fans of the Month, and so much more. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Raw Nutrition Supplements, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get into what our sponsors are all about after this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. We also have our most recent sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com and use the promo code IESR, most likely in capital letters, for 10% off your purchase. And the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, as well as on Instagram at set_point.iesr. Just basically my X account, and then you just got to put SR at the end. It'll probably pop up. And the way you can follow me personally is on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. Also, in the description of this show and right here is the Supporters Club. It's only $5 a month to be a Supporters Club for this show. And if you do become a member of the Supporters Club, first and foremost, thank you very much. It really means a lot to me that you would donate to this show and on a monthly basis. But also, you'll get a shout out from me on every show. you'll also get the chance to be featured on either a live episode of Set Point or on Set Point Extra Points, where it's a pre-recorded show and we can talk all things volleyball to an extent. Also, if you're a member of the Supporters Club for 4 months, or if you're a former guest on Set Point, then I will ship you off an IE Sports Radio t-shirt or tank top of your choice and of color. And if you manage to become a member of the Supporters Club for longer than 4 months and perhaps beyond, then I will definitely make it worth your while. Maybe throw in a gift card or so. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But the Supporters Club is right down there. It's also in the description of the show. Only $5 a month. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. All right. Also got to give a shout out to Kevin Prate, one of the contributors to Set Point. I definitely do appreciate it. Definitely check out his content. He was actually in San Diego for a race for autism awareness, which I thought was pretty special and fun. And he does a lot of great stuff, helping get the high school boys volleyball players onto the next level. And he helps get them scholarships. And he's doing a thing with his website as well. And he also has a website called middlehitter.com. So definitely check that out. All right, with all that being said, let's get on into the NCAA men's volleyball side of things, as we had a lot of fun volleyball. This week begins conference tournaments, but only for 2 conferences. This is the last week until conference play gets underway, but we got to recap the very fun and eventful Week 15 of NCAA men's volleyball. So we'll jump into Thursday just because we have quite a bit to go over. We had a big upset starting on Thursday. We had Lewis sweeping Loyola Chicago, which I thought was a big win. It was round 2 between the Ramblers and the Flyers they rose to the occasion, no pun intended. So I thought that was a big win for Lewis. Osan O's continue his hot streak when it comes to the Flyers. And this put Loyola in a very sticky situation. Since they lost, they needed to beat Ball State in order to be the number 1 seed of the MIVA tournament and take a share of the MIVA regular season title. And this rivalry just seems so unpredictable. And it seems like Lewis has the number for Loyola whenever the two meet this year. I don't know if it's just a Dan Friend thing, but Lewis just seemed like they were locked in, especially playing at their place. So you got to give credit to Lewis for pulling off that win. Then we had 2 5-setters from the Big West. We had CSUN outlasting UC San Diego in 5 sets in Northridge, as the Matadors pulled off a nice little win right there. 5th set was actually decided 19-17, so a great win for the Matadors and a tough loss for UC San Diego, especially since they split last week against UC Irvine. And then speaking of those Anteaters, they actually outlasted UC Santa Barbara in 5 on the road, as they didn't have Halir Heno nor Max Grigoriev, and that was pretty big right there for the Anteaters. But UC Santa Barbara also didn't have Riggs Guy due to an ankle sprain, and they also didn't have Jess Bianchi, who had a back injury. But you're going to find out that he actually did come back to play in the second match. But a big win for those Anteaters. They can ill afford to lose too many matches in the Big West, especially when it comes to these at-larges, which I'll discuss in a little bit. Then we had Pepperdine taking down William Jessup in 4 sets. That wasn't too surprising. Lindenwood took down Queens to improve their seeding and their chances of making the MIVA tournament. And then Charleston took down Thomas More. So you have that right there. And then jumping over to Friday. Friday we had it was a fun day for NCAA men's volleyball. We had Penn State outlasting George Mason in 5 sets, which I thought was a very good win right there. You had Fairleigh Dickinson take it down to Uville in 4. Merrimack took down LIU in a non-conference match in 4 sets. I hope Merrimack gets to become in a conference. I hope Merrimack gets in a conference, whether it's the NEC or any sort of conference. I think it would be fun to see Merrimack compete in a conference and not independently. Then you had Princeton sweeping Harvard in a key EIVA match. NJIT took down Sacred Heart in 4. Ohio State swept Quincy. Menlo took down Vanguard in the battle of 2 former NAI programs. You had Stanford taking down USC in 5 sets on the road. Now, it seems like Stanford has the number for USC, but USC did not have Jack Duker. They did have Dylan Klein, but Jack Duker is still dealing with that abdomen injury, and Klein I highly doubt is at 100%. But Teo Snooey and Moses Wagner both went off. big nights for them, both registering 25 kills. Those two are basically the two-headed monster for the Cardinals. So great win for Stanford. And for USC, this is an ill-afforded loss just because UCLA did also outlast BYU in 5 sets as well, as the 5th set was decided 19-17. UCLA actually got off to like an 8-3 start, and it looked like the 5th set was about to be over, and we were writing the obituary in that 5th set for BYU. But BYU just stormed past their slow start, caught up to UCLA, but UCLA was just not having any of it. So that was a big win for those Bruins. And we have to go over the final match on Friday. We had Long Beach State, number 1 Long Beach State, taking on number 4 Hawaii. And the Beach took down the Bows in 4 sets. First 2 sets were pretty much all Long Beach, never trailed at any point. But then set 3, Hawaii finally got it together. No Kristen Tatrisky for the Rainbow Warriors, but also no Sotir Shapanis for Long Beach State, as Finn Kearney was actually leading the way for Hawaii at the opposite position. And he did a pretty good job. Some are saying that he's done he did a better job in that match than Tatrisky did all season. And I kind of disagree with that. I mean, to each his own, but it is what it is. But Long Beach State took down Hawaii in 4. The 4th set actually looked like it was going to go 5. Hawaii actually was up 20-18, but Long Beach State outscored the Bows 7-1. So a very good gritty win for the Beach, and it was worth staying up for. And it's matches like that that deserve more recognition, and that make NCAA men's volleyball want more recognition and need more recognition. Oh, and I forgot to mention, backtracking to Wednesday, we had Fort Valley State taking down Edward Waters in the first of 2 matchups in 4 sets. And then Fort Valley State swept Edward Waters in the second match to lock up the SIAC championship and become the number 1 seed of SIAC tournament, which I think is big for Fort Valley State because they are the reigning SIAC tournament champions. So a great win for Fort Valley State. Great pair of wins for Fort Valley State as they'll look to try to defend their crown. Continuing on with Saturday's matchups, we had Lincoln Memorial taking down Catawba in straight sets. Lincoln Memorial is the number 1 seed of their tournament, the IVA tournament, which I think is pretty nice. You also had Princeton outlasting Harvard in 5 sets to clinch a share of the NEVA regular season title, but they didn't clinch the outright league title. They didn't clinch the outright conference title, as Penn State outlasted George Mason in 5 sets again on the road. So this week, Princeton and Penn State are facing one another, and it's going to be a barn burner between those two. If Penn State wins twice, they get the number 1 seed of the EIVA tournament, and they will host the EIVA tournament. But if Princeton wins at least 1 match, then the Tigers get to host in New Jersey, which I think would be pretty good. Then you had Menlo taking down Vanguard in the battle of 2 former NAIA teams in their first year of NCAA Men's Volleyball Division 1-2. You had UCLA taking down BYU in 4. Stanford took down USC in 4. I'm just going to say this right now. USC losing to Stanford is not ideal because UCLA now clinches at least a share of the MPSF title. And same can be said for BYU. No, I was going to say USC is now tied with Pepperdine for 4th place. So you have that right there. And Brian Francione pops into the chat room. He says, "What's up, Teran? Thank you for popping in, Brian. I appreciate you." And I will to address a question that Brian asked last week. So Boston College has a women's volleyball team in the ACC. So keep an eye out for that once the fall comes. All right, back to NCAA men's volleyball. So Stanford took down USC again in 4 sets. As the 4th set, it looked like USC was dead in the water, but then they tied it up at 24-24, and then the 2 went to the 30s, and Stanford ultimately pulled it out, winning the 4th set 33-31 off of a block in the middle. Walk-off block is the way to go when it comes to winning a match. And don't look now, but Stanford, they're showing some promise. Now, again, no Jack Duker for USC, and he told me that he was going to be fully healthy for the UCLA series. So I would not write the obituary for USC just yet. I know some are, but I'm just going to say until USC is pretty much out of the tournament, or unless they suffer a big upset or they just lose in the MPSF tournament, they're not done just yet. So Do not count out the Trojans by any means, but they really got to get Dylan Klein to full strength. They got to get Jack Duker to full strength because they play UCLA this week. And if USC doesn't get to full strength, they won't have the fearless leader, Jack Duker, in terms of facing those big, tall players such as Zach Rama, Cooper Robinson, Ito David. The list goes on and on. So USC needs to get fully healthy ASAP. And then we had a barn burner of a Big West matchup. We had CSUN reverse sweeping UC San Diego, and it was a wild one. So UC San Diego obviously won the first two sets. CSUN took the third set. Fourth set, CSUN wound up winning that 39-37. That might be the most points in a set this season in terms of the NCAA men's volleyball season, as their reward was a fifth set match, and CSUN managed to win in 5 sets, 15-11 in that fifth set, courtesy of Jalen Phillips putting down the kill. He had 34 kills, which I thought was pretty big right there. It really made my decision of my starting rotation of the week that much more difficult. And then we also had Mount Olive taking down Barton in 4 sets. They look pretty much ready for the Conference Carolinas tournament. And then you also had UC Irvine taking down UC Santa Barbara in straight sets. Hilir Heno did play. Max Grigoriev played. I was at the match. The Anteaters look pretty solid, and they are just so dangerous. I'm probably going to be at their match Thursday when they play CSUN on their senior night. It'll probably be the last time I get to see Hilir Heno unless I somehow manage to go to the Big West Conference Men's Volleyball Championships, but we shall see. But to close off week number 15, we had number 1 versus number 2, or number 1 versus number 2, number 1 versus number 4, Long Beach State. Number 1 Long Beach State taking on number 4 Hawaii. It was a fun one. Long Beach State took the first set, and then Hawaii took the second set. They just looked more energized. Hawaii just had a little bit more zip to them. And then Long Beach State won the third set, and winning that third set was big because now Long Beach State has the tiebreaker over Hawaii at that point of the season, and Long Beach State now controls its destiny. But what they didn't have locked up was the match. Hawaii wound up forcing a fourth set. Then they jumped out to a solid 5-2 lead in set number 5. Hawaii actually never trailed in the fifth set, but Long Beach State was not going away. Eventually it was tied 13-13, and then Louis Sakanoko put down 1 kill, which barely tagged the end line. Oh, man, was it tough to be an official in that match. And, man, I wish that NCAA men's volleyball would invest in some Bolt 6 technology. It is a game changer. I do not care what anyone says. This is no diss to Hawkeye, but Bolt 6 is where it's at. The PVF uses it, and I'm certain like FIVB will use it. So get some Bolt 6 NCAA men's volleyball. And then the fifth set was decided by Louis Sakanoko as he managed to put down another kill, which went over the triple block and eventually found its way onto the Long Beach State side. And that's how Hawaii wound up winning 15-13 in that fifth set. Down goes number 1. And it was very fitting because Hawaii had their senior night, and Spiros Hakas said it best. Rule number 1 when it comes to Hawaii men's volleyball: never lose on senior night. So my takeaway for Hawaii is this: they still got it. Even though they didn't have Kristen Tatrisky, they still have it in them. And Finn Kearney did an outstanding job. And someone else that really stepped up was Kurt Neuster. I said he was a junior, and that is absolutely correct, but he's actually going to be honored in terms of senior night, or he was honored in terms of senior night, as he's going to be going into his next phase of his career in accounting, which I think is pretty darn amazing if you ask me. So Kurt Neuster really put on his Superman cape. And this was the night after he had himself a dud of a night, and he had no kills, only like 1 ace, 1 block, and 1 dig. And then he had 10 kills. He had over 800. He had 6 blocks. He was a big key turnaround point for Hawaii. And the attendance for both matches were over 19,000. 9,971 in the first match, and then 9,751 in the second match. But regardless, over 19,000 combined. It's the first, both were sold out, which I thought was really good. It's the first time since 1996 that an NCAA men's volleyball program or two NCAA men's volleyball matches had back-to-back sellouts. So great job to Hawaii fans and the Long Beach State fans that made the trip. So, but continuing my takeaway for Hawaii, they just looked so on point. I think they definitely have a chance at making the whole big dance. I mean, they still have the loss to CSUN, but other than that, they have no losses outside of the top 10. Their only losses are to CSUN, Long Beach State, USC, and Stanford, none of which were outside the top 10, where USC has lost to Stanford twice, and then UC Irvine lost to UC Irvine lost to Long Beach State, and then they lost to UC San Diego, and that's it. But for my takeaway for Long Beach State is this: they weren't bad, but falling behind on the road in a fifth set is not ideal, if you ask me. And this is where you really miss Sotiris Chapanis. But I will say Alex Kondev has really stepped up, and I didn't even know what an Alex Kondev was. So he definitely earns my respect, and he has definitely been on point. Moni Nikolov also did not deal one service ace. So one thing that also needs to be said is that Hawaii's serve receive was so crisp and so clean. They probably did as best of a job as any team has done this season against Moni Nikolov in serve receive. So Hawaii might be, hence the word might be the kryptonite for Long Beach State. But Long Beach State missed a lot of serves. And remember who their other loss was to? UC Irvine. They missed a lot of serves in that matchup. So Long Beach State really has to clean up the service errors. And if it means switching to like a jump float, so be it. Because missed serves eventually come back to haunt you and come back to nip you in the butt. But another takeaway to close off Week 15 is this is why the NCAA needs to expand its tournament. It's now 9 teams with 7 automatic qualifiers: Big West, MIVA, EIVA, MPSF, the Conference Carolinas, the SIAC, and the newcomer, not the newcomer, but the newcomer in terms of automatic qualifiers, the NEC, the Northeast Conference. But only 2 at-larges is just not enough. It basically boils down to teams like UC Irvine, Hawaii, USC, BYU, Loyola Chicago, McKendree, and even Long Beach State and UCLA aren't locks in terms of winning its conference tournament and getting the automatic qualifier. So I'm just going to say this: the NCAA really needs to do a better job of boosting and putting more resources into NCAA men's volleyball and helping grow the game. Because as good as as amazing as of a job as everyone is doing on social media, my salute to you too, we can only do so much. So that's why the NCAA needs to really get on their high horse and help boost and put more resources into the NCAA men's volleyball. And it sucks because they can't even get social media posts going. I only think they've even posted once on social media regarding the NCAA men's volleyball season. So all in all, for NCAA men's volleyball, it really is frustrating. And I hope to all that is holy, we could see either expansion of the NCAA tournament or just more backbone into NCAA men's volleyball, because this is becoming sad. And the fact that Hawaii Long Beach State was a sellout and had over 9,700 in attendance on both nights is just disappointing. There needs to be more initiative in terms of growing NCAA men's volleyball. But I've rambled on long enough. So that's going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball Week 15 recap. So now let's jump to the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Poll. Long Beach State is still number 1, and they still are the outright number 1 because they got all the first place votes. Hawaii jumped up to 3. USC moved down to 5. UC Irvine is at 4. You also had a few little changes. Loyola is surprisingly still number 6, even though they lost to Lewis. And Lewis didn't even jump up that much, but Stanford got the biggest jump of the week. They moved up 2 spots, which I thought was pretty cool, if you ask me. No one dropped out. Now all of us still chilling at that number 20 spot until someone knocks them off their perch, which I think is pretty nice. So you have that right there. Nothing ultimately changed in terms of the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Poll. Now looking at last week's Off the Block men's volleyball media poll. So again, this was voted by the media, such as myself and Jonathan Bates, Rob Aspero, the list goes on and on. But Long Beach State is number 1, UCLA 2, USC 3, which is probably going to change this week. Hawaii 4, UC Irvine 5, Loyola 6, CSUN 7, BYU 8, Pepperdine 9, and McKendree 10. Who did I vote for in terms of the Off the Block Men's Volleyball Media Poll? Pretty much the same, except I put Hawaii at 4, UC Irvine 5. I put Pepperdine at 7 just because I gave them the benefit of the doubt that USC just did not have Jack Duker, but I still think that 5-set match against Long Beach State really helps them out. And now it's starting to look like it's looking pretty good for me putting Pepperdine at 7. And then I put CSUN 8, BYU 9, and McKendree 10. I put CSUN at 9 just because they beat Hawaii, BYU didn't. End of discussion. And then looking at this week's poll, who I voted for, I put Long Beach State 1, UCLA. Oh gosh, did I put? Well, I guess I put Hawaii 2 instead of putting UCLA 3. I could have sworn I put UCLA 2, but if I put Hawaii 2, I'll own up to it. But Hawaii is at 2, and for good reason. Hawaii did beat Long Beach State, which I know they went 1-1, but UCLA has not beaten Long Beach State. But there you go, Hawaii fans. I put Hawaii at 2. I hope it. I guess I'll have to go back and look at it, but I digress. Anyway, so UC Irvine 4, USC 5, Pepperdine 6, Loyola 7. After Loyola getting swept in the season series by Lewis, I got to put Pepperdine ahead of them. Sorry, Ramblers, but you got to earn your way back. BYU 8. I mean, they did push UCLA to 5 and 4, but unfortunately, no avail. And then their losses to Hawaii are looking a little better than expected. CSUN at 9, just because they grinded out 2 5-set matches against the top 10 team. And then I kept McKendree at 10. I still think the Bearcats are still deserving of it. They don't have any bad losses by any means. I mean, some will say that the Ohio State and Ball State losses are bad losses, but they're against ranked teams. If they had an unranked team that beat them, then I would say that that's a bad loss. But McKendree does not have any bad losses in a discussion. All right, that is that for this week's Off the Block Media Poll of who I voted for. Tomorrow is when the Off the Block Media Poll comes out. But let's get on into the Week 16 preview. So this is the last week before conference tournaments take over. We have no matches on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we can jump right into Thursday. And Thursday, we have a pretty quiet slate. We've got Grand Canyon at Stanford. This is basically the match of who's going to improve their seeding in terms of the MPSF, a.k.a. who will not draw UCLA at some point of the MPSF tournament, which Stanford is actually playing good volleyball. And despite not having one senior on their team, they have a very legit shot at beating Grand Canyon. I know Grand Canyon has kind of been through their ups and downs. I know they had the win over BYU, but I think Stanford is just playing some great volleyball, and Grand Canyon does not have the luxury of playing on its home floor. It has to go to California. Then also on Thursday, we have CSUN at UC Irvine. Top 10 matchup right there between the number 9 Matadors at the number 4 Anteaters. I'm probably going to go to this matchup unless said otherwise, even though that is Law and Order night for me, but I digress. All right, but UC Irvine, this is senior night for them. And if you saw my most recent interview with Dave Niffin, you probably saw him getting a little emotional. But this is going to be an emotional night. This is going to be the last time UC Irvine fans get to see Halir Heno at the Bren. And other seniors as well, such as Joe Carlos. And then you also got Nolan Flexen. So this is going to hit UC Irvine fans in the feels. So, and then CSUN is obviously hungry for another top 5 win, maybe to improve their seeding. But I will just say this. I think the Big West Conference Championship is wide open. I mean, maybe with the exception of Santa Barbara and San Diego, but I think any of those teams that's not named Hawaii and Long Beach can beat said Hawaii Long Beach teams. But the Big West Championship does go through Hawaii, so play Hawaii at your own peril. But there you have it right there. Then we've got my match and series of the week, USC at UCLA on Thursday. This is basically the de facto match, which could decide on if USC can somehow claim the number 1 seed or somehow claim the MPSF regular season title, or both. But if UCLA wins one of 2 matches against USC, then they'll be the number 1 seed, and nobody else can say otherwise. Now, it does not mean that USC has a bad chance. I think USC has a legit chance, but they got to go back to playing their brand of volleyball. They got to really play fearless when it comes to this matchup, just because UCLA has proven to be human. But USC, without Dylan Klein and Jack Duker, they just don't look like the same team. And I really hope what Jack Duker told me is true, because USC really needs him. As good as Christian Connell is, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, Christian Connell has been serviceable and he's played the part well following Jack Duker's injury, but they need Jack Duker in there. He is fearless, and he has really, he takes no prisoners when he gets on that court. And Dylan Klein, when fully healthy, he definitely is a monster at the net. So you have that right there. And USC is going to really get a big test when it comes to facing UCLA, because USC has to face a lot of those tall players. Like I mentioned, Zach Rama. You've also got Cooper Robinson, Cooper Thorne. Even though he's not the tallest guy, he's still he's still athletic and bouncy. Ido David, Sean McQuiggan, Andrew Rowan, and he's the setter. So USC is going to have their work cut out for them quite a bit. And then Friday, we have this notable matchup, Princeton at Penn State. The two also play each other on Saturday. Like I mentioned earlier, if Penn State beats Princeton twice, Penn State wins they take a share of the EIVA regular season title, and they get to host, and they're the number 1 seed. If Princeton wins one match between Penn State, they will get the number 1 seed of the EIVA tournament, and they won't have to share any EIVA regular season title. Then also on Friday, like I mentioned, you've got Grand Canyon Stanford. You also got Menlo Concordia Irvine, former NAI teams facing one another. Pepperdine BYU, okay, that's a decent matchup. I mean, if BYU wants to have any sort of hope of being an at-large or any sort, I mean, it's looking doubtful that they'll be an at-large, considering they have 2 losses to SC, 2 losses to Hawaii, and 2 losses to UC Irvine, and 2 losses to UCLA. But if BYU wants to have any sort of hope of gaining momentum going into the MPSF tournament, they're really going to need to win these 2 matches. And I'm just going to say this for Pepperdine, this is going to be a big test for them, but BYU is also going to get tested as well, as Ryan Barnett and Cole Hartke are both playing at a whole different level. Then also on Friday, you have Hawaii at UC Santa Barbara. So I've been told, according to Riggs Guy, that he feels good and he's looking to play this Friday against Hawaii. If not, he's going to try to play in the Big West Championships. But right now, put Riggs Guy as questionable. I mean, George Bruning, they need George Bruning to go back they need him to go back and play on the left side, because he is not a right side hitter. And as good as Jess Bianchi is, he needs to play his primary position on the right side. And Jess looked pretty good, if you ask me. He didn't look bad by any means. So I think he's kind of hopefully over that injury by any means. So hopefully for Santa Barbara's sake. So we shall see. And then moving on to Saturday, the last match of the regular season before postseason begins in all tournaments. You have Princeton at Penn State, like I mentioned. You also have UC Irvine at CSUN. You've got Hawaii Santa Barbara. I forgot to mention Friday. Friday and Saturday, it's a home-and-home series between UC San Diego and Long Beach State. So UC San Diego is hosting against Long Beach State, and then Long Beach State hosts UC San Diego the day after. All right, Long Beach State is in control of their own destiny. If they win out, they're the number 1 seed, and they'll most likely avoid UC Irvine. But that doesn't mean they're guaranteed to not have a barn burner against Santa Barbara, CSUN, or San Diego. The UC San Diego is going to throw everything at them and then some. If Long Beach State manages to lose at least once to UC San Diego and Hawaii wins out, Hawaii is the number 1 seed, and that puts Long Beach State in a sticky situation, because their path to the final will obviously be tough. And then if for some weird reason Long Beach State and Hawaii both lose, and then UC Irvine wins out, then the 3 tie for first place in the Big West Conference. And I imagine Hawaii would get the 1 seed, because they have a record of 3-1 against Long Beach State and UC Irvine. Long Beach State has a record of 2-2 against UC Irvine and Hawaii. And then UC Irvine has a record of 1-3 against Long Beach State and Hawaii. That's what I'm assuming. And I know I shouldn't assume, but it is what it is. But that's kind of your scenario in the Big West Conference. But let's be honest, I don't really, no offense to Santa Barbara, no offense to San Diego, I don't see either of those teams. I mean, they'll probably challenge them, and maybe they could pull off an upset. But it'd be hard to see Long Beach State losing one against those teams. I can't imagine Hawaii or Long Beach State losing because they know how important every match is if in the event that they have to be an at-large. And if their resume is not up to snuff, then they're not going dancing. So they can ill afford any losses at this point of the season. All right, but that is that for this week's matches in terms of this season. So now let's actually make some predictions for the SIAC tournament. So the SIAC tournament is this week, and it's a 6-team bracket. So Edward Waters is the number 2 seed, and Fort Valley State is the number 1 seed. They've got buys all the way to the semifinals. So in terms of the quarterfinals, you've got Central State taking on Morehouse, and then you've also got Benedict versus Morehouse, and then Central State versus Lemoyne Owen. So we'll start with Benedict versus Morehouse. This one's kind of no-brainer. I mean, 3 versus 6. Morehouse hasn't really been the best team, and Benedict still has some pop to them. So give me Benedict over Morehouse. And then Central State versus Lemoyne Owen. Look, I like Lemoyne Owen. I think they're a nice little feel-good story. But I think Central State ekes this one out. I think it's going to be a little bit more intense than it needs to be. So give me Central State over Lemoyne Owen, and then give me Benedict over Morehouse in a tight one. Meaning my semifinals will be Fort Valley State versus Benedict and Central State versus Edward Waters. So let's be honest. Fort Valley State, again, they've been battle-tested throughout the entire season, facing teams like Long Beach State, Grand Canyon, Ohio State, etc. So I can't imagine Fort Valley State loses to Benedict or Morehouse for that matter. So give me Fort Valley State to advance to the SIAC championship. Then for Central State versus Edward Waters. I mean, Edward Waters has the number of Central State. They've had their number this season. I wouldn't count out Central State, though. But I just think Edward Waters is on a warpath to get one more match with Fort Valley State. So give me Edward Waters over Central State in the semifinals. Meaning my championship match in the SIAC tournament will be obviously Fort Valley State and Edward Waters. Anticlimactic, I know, but look, Fort Valley State returns most of their players from last year's team that wound up winning the SIAC and that made the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament. I can't imagine. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that, but I couldn't see Edward Waters winning this one. I could see Edward Waters pushing their way to forcing Fort Valley State into a pressurized situation, but I just see Fort Valley State winning this one. It won't be easy. It's so tough to beat a team 3 times in one season. So especially at this point of the season against an opponent like that. But give me Fort Valley State and Central State in the SIAC championship, and Fort Valley State will be dancing yet again. So here's my picks on screen. I can't imagine with how Fort Valley State's been battle tested, I can't imagine them losing in this tournament. And Larry Rather does a fantastic job. Not that I'm discrediting all the other teams, just because I think Edward Waters, now that they're eligible for the SIAC tournament and for the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament, as that wasn't the case last year, they were eligible for SIAC tournament, not eligible for the big dance. They have more motivation to go out there and try to beat their rivals. Now let's jump on into my predictions for the quarterfinals of the MIVA tournament. So, MIVA tournament, you gotta love it. It's an 8-team bracket. So the matchups are Queens at Loyola, Purdue Fort Wayne at McKendree, who they beat the Mastodons in both matches last week. You have Ohio State versus Lindenwood, and then you've got Lewis versus Ball State. So let's go down the bracket. Let's start with 1 versus 8. All right, this one's kind of a no-brainer. Loyola is going to be beating Queens. Don't get me wrong. I like Queens. I think they're a solid team. They're still kind of new to this whole MIVA team, or this MIVA conference thing. But I just can't imagine Loyola losing to Queens. I know they lost to McKendree a couple seasons ago, but I just don't see Loyola losing at this point to Queens. So give me Loyola over Queens. And then Lewis-Ball State is going to be the most fun matchup of the first round. What do I expect from this matchup? I expect a barn burner. I think it goes 5, but I got Lewis winning. I think Max Roque and Osan O's just continue their tear when it comes to the Lewis offense. And I really want to give Ball State a chance. I think Tanashi Ndaba-Zocheva is going to be big time for them. I definitely think Patrick Rogers is also big for them. I just don't see them slowing down a high-powered Lewis team like that. So give me the Flyers in 5 sets over Ball State. Then you've got the 3 seed Ohio State playing the 6 seed Lindenwood. All right, Lindenwood is scrappy. I'm just going to say it right now. I don't expect this to be a walk in the park for the Buckeyes. Ohio State is last year's tournament champion, but I think they're still under the case of being a young team. And you got to remember, Lindenwood did take down Lewis this year. But that being said, I think Ohio State is playing better ball. They know what to do with their lineup. Stanislaw Chichinski's doing great. Shane Wetzel also doing amazing. Cole Young, great out the middle. Daniel Henwood Rodriguez has mastered the setter position in his first year with the Buckeyes. I just can't imagine seeing Lindenwood will definitely scrap Ohio State to the best of their abilities, but I just think the Buckeyes come out on top. And then finally, we've got Purdue Fort Wayne at McKendree. Well, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season, like I mentioned. And it's going to be even more tougher for McKendree to beat a Purdue Fort Wayne team that knows what to expect. And I wouldn't be surprised if Purdue Fort Wayne pushed McKendree to 5, just because McKendree loves those 5 setters. But honestly, I doubt it I don't even think it goes 5. I think McKendree can get the job done. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you my results right now. So here's who I got. I got Loyola in 3, McKendree in 3, Ohio State in 4, and Lewis in 5. So those are my picks right there. Let's see if they actually age well or if they age like milk. But that's going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball portion of the show. Let me know what your picks are. And the reason why I only gave the quarterfinals is because next week is the semifinals, and I want to make my predictions for that. And we'll see how I did. If I did great, awesome. But if not, then oh well. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA beach volleyball to discuss, and we've got some LOVB to discuss, as well as some PVF and some high school boys volleyball and the 3C2A men's volleyball. So keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson, as well as The Neutral Zone with Adam Cornick and Zach Poplis, especially since the NHL playoffs are right around the corner. So you have that right there. Let's talk some NCAA beach volleyball, as I went through quite a bit of some NCAA men's volleyball. So let's pop up the ABCA National Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll. So TCU is still number 1. They got all the first place votes. UCLA remained at number 2 despite suffering some losses. USC kind of climbed up. They didn't get back to the top 5, even though they went a perfect 4-0 in the Best in the West tournament. You got Cal Poly climbing up to number 3, which is the highest they've been ranked in program history, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. Pretty much the bottom is the bottom, like 14 through 20 are still the same. You got Stanford still in the top 5, even though they lost to USC. You got Florida State still at 7. You got Long Beach State still chilling in the top 10, especially with their win over Cal Poly, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much that for the ABCA National Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll. Let me know what you all think. I actually want to go back to my previous comment to Brian Francione. He said, awesome will do. Fall is going to be stoked. I was going to say something like wicked awesome. So, but yeah, Brian is talking about the ACC in terms of Boston College. He's the host of our Boston show, Beantown Sports Town. So definitely check him out. This week he's going to be on Tuesdays, by the way. So this week he's going to be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. But let's discuss some NCAA beach volleyball as we are recapping Week 8. Only a matter of time before we get conference tournaments happening. I think next week starts all the conference tournaments. So can't confirm that for sure, but I digress. So some notable scores, hopefully, that the NCAA website has posted. You had USC taking down Florida State in the center of effort challenge 4-1. Nice win right there for the Trojans, getting their lick back against the Noles. You had UCLA outlasting LMU in the battle of 2 top 3 teams, which I thought was a great win for them. You had Arizona State taking down TCU. Wait, is that right? Arizona State took down TCU? There's no way. There's no way. There's no way, dude. I thought TCU beat them, but yeah, it shows on the NCAA website that Arizona State beat TCU 4-1. I don't know. I thought I could have sworn I saw Arizona State or TCU winning that one. Yeah. Here on the TCU website, TCU beat Arizona State 4-1. So you thought you were slick, NCAA. You thought you were slick trying to fool your boy into thinking that Arizona State had beaten TCU. Tisk, shame on you, NCAA. This volleyball podcaster or volleyball content creator is not getting fooled by any means. Anyway, back to the action. So we had Stanford taking down Florida State in the Center of Effort Challenge 4-1. And then Stanford beat Cal Poly, which I thought was a nice win since Cal Poly was the host of the Center of Effort Challenge. And then you also had Boise State continuing its winning ways. You had UCLA sweeping Arizona State. You had USC outlasting Cal Poly, which I thought was a nice win for the Trojans. It was a gritty 3-2 win, but the women of Troy pulled out the win. And then we jumped to Saturday. We had Long Beach State taking down FIU 5-0. That's a nice win for the Beach. They won in Washington. They also beat Washington. I think it was Friday. I can't be certain, but they managed to beat Washington by a narrow score of 3-2. Cal Poly took down Florida State to bounce back after suffering that tough loss to USC, and then some. You had LMU taking down Arizona State 4-1. You had Stanford outlasting USC 3-2, which I thought was pretty impressive by the Cardinal. The Cardinal used to not beat USC, but ever since last year, the Cardinal now have the number 4 USC. And it looks like Stanford Beach Volleyball managed to follow suit from what the men's volleyball team did this past weekend. So there you go. And then you had UCLA taking down TCU 3-2, which I thought was a very big win for the Bruins. And it's looking like UCLA is probably going to be the number 1 team this week, as UCLA actually did not lose once this week. So very good win for them. You also had Cal beating Hawaii 3-2, which was a nice win on the road for the Golden Bears. What else did we have? We had Arizona State taking out Florida State 3-2. That's a nice win for, well, I can't even be certain if that's the case, because you never know what the NCAA is doing when it comes to their website. So I'm just going to look at their website. I'm just going to look at the website for Arizona State, just so I don't get smeckle dwarfed and whatnot. So I mean, it's so sad that the NCAA isn't entering their scores right. I'll enter scores for free correctly if you let me. If you let me, NCAA, I will do a much better job than you all. Okay, so Arizona State did beat Florida State, so that actually is their only win. That was their only win last weekend, as they lost to TCU, lost to UCLA, and lost to LMU. So tough weekend for Arizona State, but at least they salvaged 1 win in Center of Effort. Then Washington also beat Oregon again. TCU took down Cal Poly. Wait a second. Oh, yeah, that's right. TCU took down Cal Poly. Then LMU took down TCU. I knew there was one SoCal team that took down TCU this past week, and that team was LMU. So great win for LMU. And, yeah, I'm not seeing TCU as the number 1 team. I know UCLA lost twice last week, but UCLA now has the edge over TCU. And UCLA also edged out Stanford 3-2. So that was a nice win for them. You had Cal taking down Grand Canyon 4-1 in Hawaii. And Grand Canyon took down Hawaii 4-1, also in Hawaii. So closing off this past week's matches, we had on Sunday, we had Cal taking down Hawaii 5-0. You had Cal taking down Grand Canyon 4-1. And then, that's it for the ranked on ranked matches. But I definitely should make note that Boise State now has won 21, I think it's 20 straight matches at home, dating back to 2020, I think. 2020, 2021. But regardless, Boise State has been, look, I'm just saying this as an unbiased person. Boise State has some players that could ball, like Addie and Ava. I think they have some really good players on their team that could take on anybody. So Boise State, I definitely think they can win their conference. It's just a matter of showing up to the party and just closing out when it really matters most. So keep an eye on Boise State. They definitely have some scrappy players. So there you go. And no, I'm not saying that. I'm not being put up to say that, or I'm not being scripted to say that. All right, but that is that for week number 8 of the NCAA Beach Volleyball season. Jumping over to week 9. So let us look at some of the notable matches. We don't have any on Wednesday. Thursday, we have USC at UCLA. All right, this is going to be fun. We got a lot of USC versus UCLA happening this week. Not just in men's volleyball, but in beach volleyball. So I'm hoping for USC's sake that they could still beat the Bruins. I mean, they are 1-0 against the Bruins, but that was a very narrow 1-0. as USC kind of needed a little bit of a violation to win that third set. Not that I'm saying it's the officials' fault, but I will just say that USC in the second go-around against UCLA is going to have a little bit tougher of a time. But if USC is at full strength for the most part, and if they catch UCLA on a not-so-good day, then I think the women of Troy can win. But I will also say that UCLA is just playing at a high level, and the Center of Effort Challenge really showed that they could really just show their strut their stuff. Then Friday, we have some notable matches. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi at Cal Poly. Sneaky good matchup. I mean, Corpus Christi isn't as great as they were last year, but you never know. Then you have Long Beach State, LMU. That's going to be a fun little matchup right there. LMU did get the better of Long Beach State earlier in the year at Long Beach State, but we shall see if the Beach have an answer for the Lions. Then you got Cal Poly, Texas. That's another fun matchup right there. Let's see if the Mustangs can bounce back from their little bit of a tough weekend and take down the Longhorns, who are still hungry for some top 5 wins. Then you've also got Cal Stanford. That's a very good match right there. Washington Cal will also be pretty decent, former Pac-12 teams, but honestly, Cal Stanford I think will be a better matchup. And then on Saturday, you've got Cal Poly at Cal Poly North Florida. Looking more at this, Washington Stanford is a decent matchup, I suppose. And that pretty much is it. Nothing that stands out. Maybe UTEP Arizona State. TCU Grand Canyon in the battle of the purple teams, but TCU isn't going to be losing by any means. By the way, yeah, TCU is hosting this week, and we already know that TCU hasn't lost in a hot minute. They have won more than 60 duels on their home sand. So if you're thinking that TCU is going to be losing by any means, well, you have another thing coming, because when they're playing at home, they're not losing a whole lot. But we shall see. And that is pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. And there are no matches on Sunday. And yeah, conference tournaments start next week. So I can confirm that this is the last week of the regular season. Conference tournaments start next week. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be chaos. Hide your kids, hide your wife, all that sort of thing. All right, but that's that right there. So let us jump on into the LOVB Championship or LOVB Finals recap. And I'm just going to say this. I fail at predicting when it comes to trying to get these matches correct. Like, my predictions aged so poorly. So bad. I swear it was not good. So let's rip the Band-Aid off this wound. So the first matchup was LOVB Salt Lake taking on LOVB Austin. And I really wanted to pick Austin for this matchup. I really just was trying to. Something told me Salt Lake was going to pull out the win. And it was looking like that was going to be the case, as Salt Lake grinded out 2 tight sets in the first 2 sets. And then Austin was able to win the third set. Then Austin eked out a 4th set win. All the sets were decided by 2 points. And the crazy thing is that 5th set, Salt Lake was up 14-11. Eventually, Austin tied it up at 14-14. And eventually, Austin wound up winning the 5th set 18-16. Oh, man, that's just wild if you ask me. I just couldn't believe that Austin pulled off a crazy comeback like that. It just shows that no lead was safe when it came to this little matchup. As Mon McCage was the player of the match, she had 13 kills and 6 blocks, so good for her. And then also for LOVB Austin, Maddie Skinner led the way with 21 kills and 10 digs. You also had Logan Eggleston with 10 kills. You had Anna Hawk with 14 digs. Then Chiaka Agbagu and Alyssa Gennaro. They both had 7 kills. And then for Salt Lake, they were led by Skylar Fields, who had 18 kills and 13 digs. Roni Jones-Perry had 13 kills. Haley Washington had 8 kills. But it wasn't enough, as Salt Lake was ousted by Austin. So great win for Austin. And I'm really kicking myself for not picking Austin. But you know who else I'm not kicking myself for not picking is Omaha. So LOVB Omaha took on LOVB Madison. And Omaha, as we all know, they were the worst team. Okay, worst team is kind of a harsh thing. They had the worst record in LOVB. And Madison, obviously, they were coming off of that loss to LOVB Houston. But that didn't matter for LOVB Omaha as they took down Madison in 4 sets, 25-17, 18-25, 25-18, and 25-21. As Jordan Larson, the governor, everyone's favorite former Nebraska player and former USA women's volleyball player, she had 14 kills, and she also had 9 digs to lead Omaha, as she was named the player of the match. Maddie Cubic Banks led the way in terms of kills for Omaha, as she had 18 kills. They also got 11 kills from Kim Drunlock, and Emily Thader had 10 kills. They also got 8 kills each from Sammy Francis and Lauren Stivrins. Sammy Francis, she's actually the newest newcomer for Madison. She hasn't been with the team all that long, and honestly, she thrived really well in that match. Annie Drew Schumacher led the way for Madison with 17 kills and 12 digs. Jennifer Janiska had 11 kills to go along with 14 digs. They also got 7 kills from Sarah Franklin and 6 kills from Claire Chaussee. It was not enough as Omaha advanced to the semifinals. Yeah, just like everybody predicted. So the first matchup was LOVB Austin versus LOVB Atlanta. So it was the battle of the LOVB A's. Except this A was amazing. And LOVB Atlanta wound up taking the first 2 sets, 25-21 and 25-15. At that point, I was thinking, okay, it looks like Atlanta's got this. But Austin managed to stay alive, took the third set in close fashion, 25-22. Then they just belted Atlanta. They belted them 25-10 in the 4th set. Then the 5th set, just like before, Atlanta had a nice little lead in that 5th set, but Austin was able to make a comeback, win in overtime 16-14, advancing to the LOVB championship match. Oh, man. And if you're an Atlanta fan, Atlanta sports fan in general, you got to be just pulling your hair out saying, why? Why do the teams that are favored to win have to lose? It was like this with the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United and the Atlanta Vibe last year. Now with this. Anyway, so Maddie Skinner led the way with 29 points overall and 25 kills as she led the way in that department. Molly McCage and Logan Eggleston had 10 kills each. Eggleston had 12 digs. Then Anna Hawk had 18 digs to go on with 7 kills. She nearly had a triple-double, which I thought was pretty cool. Chiaka Agbagu had 8 kills as well. And then for LOVB Atlanta, they were led by Daniel Catino, who had 19 kills. Mackenzie Adams had 16 kills. Kelsey Cook had 20 digs to go along with 9 kills. Unfortunately, it was just not enough as my pick to win it all lost. Oh, but it was worse. My other pick that I thought could have made the final if Madison somehow didn't advance, they lost too, as Omaha reverse swept Houston. So first 2 sets, Houston took it 25-15, 25-15, 26-24, and everyone was writing the obituary for Omaha. Everyone was thinking, okay, Omaha is going to lose. Jess Merzick has the answer for Omaha/Nebraska, but Omaha wasn't having any of it, as Omaha took the 3rd set 25-23, as well as the 4th set by that same score, and eventually Omaha eked out the 5th set 15-12. Yeah, go figure. The 2 teams that had the worst record in the league managed to make the championship match of the LOVB finals. As Sammy Francis was the player of the game, she had 9 kills to go along with 6 blocks. For a newcomer, she really impressed. And Sammy Francis I wish she could have made a late push for Rookie of the Year. If I had to give late Rookie of the Year, it would be to Sammy Francis. So you have that right there. Kim Drunlock led the way for Omaha with 17 kills. Jordan Larson had 11 kills and 13 digs. Jaleel Winters had 23 digs and 7 kills. Omaha also did not have Oh God, I am Maddie Cubic Banks. They didn't have Maddie Cubic Banks as she was in concussion protocol. She was available, but she wasn't cleared to play. Emily Thader had 7 kills. Lauren Stivrins had 9 kills. For Houston, they were led by Jordan Thompson, who had 24 kills and 9 digs. Maddie King Don Rochelle had 17 kills and 16 digs. Jess Merzick had 11 kills and 16 digs. Micah Hancock had 15 digs to go along with her double-digit assists. And then Rafaela Foley, she had 7 kills and 2 digs. So that was that right there. And Amber Igidi had 9 kills. I can't forget that for all my Hawaii fans out there. So I will just say I failed at predicting these correctly. I can't believe I got every pick wrong, practically every pick wrong, which is why I didn't even bother making a prediction, just because I didn't want any of the fan bases to say, oh, this aged poorly. And if every fan base saw me making these predictions last week, if every fan base saw those predictions last week, I would be getting dunked on by Austin and Omaha fans. But the LLVB finals were as follows. This was played. Oh, by the way, those semifinals were played on ESPN2. The championship match was also played on ESPN2 as Austin took on Omaha for all the marbles. First set, Austin took it 25-19. Austin jumped out to an early lead and didn't look back. Same can be said for set 2, except Omaha really tried to make some pushes. Omaha, there were 3 different occasions where they were down by a good chunk, but then they managed to go on runs and they managed to get within 2 points. But Austin just would not let them get any closer as Austin showed a lot of grit and determination. And the crazy thing is that Omaha did not have any service pressure on Austin, and that was the concerning thing right there. And the even more crazy thing is that Omaha just did not – they weren't turning their defense into offense, and they were probably the best team to turn defense into points. And the fact that they didn't do that was a little surprising, but it is what it is. And it was the third set was a very, very precarious set. Fun fact, I didn't know that the media timeout was at 12 points, which I think is wild if you ask me. But moving on, the third set was basically a fight to the finish. Like neither team led by more than 3 points, as Austin just did everything they could to try to pull away. They led 19-16 at one point. Omaha went on a 3-0 run, but it was at that point, I think it was at one point in the third set, Omaha ran out of subs, and they didn't have their libero on the floor, which was Justine Wong Orontes, which, oh man, that was a very tough situation. 0 subs, and they did not have their best, maybe arguably the best libero on the court. So that was very brutal for Omaha. And eventually Austin wound up winning the third set 25-23 to take down Omaha in straight sets and win the first ever LLVB championship. So Carly Lloyd was the player of the match. She had 45 assists and 9 digs, and she led her team to a .411 hitting percentage and a 47% kill percentage, which I thought was pretty darn cool, if you ask me. Logan Eggleston and Maddie Skinner both led the way with 17 kills each, and that just seems kind of fitting for and Omaha fans are probably going to kill me for saying this. It seems only fitting that Maddie Skinner and Logan Eggleston led the way for Austin to beat an Omaha team. I'm sorry to Omaha fans. Please forgive me. As Omaha was led by Jordan Larson and Sammy Francis, both having 10 kills each. Larson had 9 digs. But all in all, my takeaway for this was I'm glad it was aired on ESPN too. Maybe one day it'll get aired on ESPN, even though the NBA kind of took that role from underneath their nose. But it was a very fun match. It sucks that one team had to lose. And for Austin, I will just say Austin really strut their stuff in terms of taking on Omaha this year. They didn't lose. If I recall correctly, Omaha didn't even beat Austin once, as Omaha lost to Austin in 5 sets on the 21st of March. They lost in 4 sets on the 16th of February, and they lost in straight sets on the 25th of January. So it's got to be brutal for Omaha fans seeing the team lose to Austin like that. Just when you thought they couldn't get away from Texas, from the University of Texas beating them in the national championship or any sort of big championship match, that happens. So all in all, it was and Maddie Skinner was named the player of the match when it came to, I think she was named the most outstanding player of the tournament. So mad kudos to Maddie Skinner, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be on the U.S. national team one day. I'm going to willingly predict this right now. She's going to be on the national team come the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. So there you go. All right, that is that for LOVB. That's going to do it for LOVB this season. Until next year, LOVB, I'll try to get more, I really want to get more involved. I really need to ask, some of the higher ups or maybe some people that know LOVB about maybe joining their organization, because I really want to join these leagues, especially since they're so young. I better join the leagues while I can before they start getting too big to the point where they won't need me, but I digress. Anyway, so LOVB Austin wound up winning the inaugural LOVB championship. Congratulations to Austin. They pulled off 2 reverse sweeps to get to the championship, and then they pulled off a sweep. So technically they pulled off 3 sweeps in the playoffs. So there you go. But lots of credit goes to Omaha. They're the number 6 team, finished dead last in the league, wound up pulling off 2 upsets, including a reverse sweep over Houston, and they made it all that way this far. So bravo to Omaha on a fantastic season. All right, now let's jump on into some PVF. So we're going to try to skim through this fairly quickly just because I've kind of rambled on a lot for this whole thing. So in terms of PVF matches, I'm just going to give you all my quick reaction when it comes to some of these matches. So we had on Wednesday the start of week 15 of the PVF season. It started off with, where'd you go? Oh, no, Tuesday it was the Atlanta Vibe taking on the San Diego Mojo in San Diego, where the Vibe continued its winning ways, winning in 5 sets over San Diego. I'm a little surprised Atlanta needed 5 to beat the Mojo, but I will just say Mojo have nothing to lose at this point of the season. So I was impressed by how the Mojo played, but all in all, Atlanta's been on a tear. Then Thursday, we had the Orlando Valkyries taking down the Grand Rapids Rise in 4 sets. Okay, not too surprising. I knew the Valkyries would win. I mean, the Rise is still kind of in that rebuild transition year, but the Valkyries, they need some wins and then some. They have not locked up a playoff spot just yet. And then also Thursday, we had the first team clinching a spot in the PVF championship or the PVF semifinals or the PVF playoffs. The Omaha Supernovas, they took down the Vegas Thrill on the road in 4 sets. Omaha became the first team to lock up a playoff spot, so they will be able to defend their crown. Then Saturday, we had the Grand Rapids Rise taking down the Indy Ignite in 5 sets. I was surprised that this result occurred. I thought, so it's 2 straight losses for the Ignite, as they had won 4 or 5 in a row, and then especially with a win over Omaha. But now they've lost 2 straight to 2 teams that aren't even in contention for playoffs. Meanwhile, for the Rise, like I said last week, they've surpassed the Vegas Thrill, and now they are in the 5 spot, but they still have a ways to go to clinch that that 4 seed in the playoffs. Then also on Saturday, we had the Atlanta Vibe sweeping the Orlando Valkyries. By sweeping the Orlando Valkyries, the Atlanta Vibe wound up clinching a spot in the playoffs. So we had 2 teams clinching a spot in the postseason, the first being the Supernovas and the second being the Vibe, which I thought was very cool on the Vibe's behalf. And then closing off Saturday's slate of matches, we had this stunner right here. The San Diego Mojo upsetting the Omaha Supernovas in San Diego in 4 sets. Believe it or not, San Diego actually earned a split against the Supernovas. So for as bad as the Mojo have been this season, they managed to beat Omaha twice, and one of which was actually at CHI Health Center. So mad props to the Mojo. It's just a case of too little too late. And this is kind of the reason why I titled the show, 1 is the pressured number. Because when you're the number 1 team, you're pressured in terms of not losing. Otherwise, people have different opinions on you. But for the Omaha Supernovas, I will say they'll be fine going forward. I can't imagine this loss deterring them going forward. And then Sunday we had the Columbus Fury sweeping the Vegas Thrill. Long story short, this is the team, like I mentioned in past episodes, the Columbus Fury broke the Vegas Thrill. So I think for Vegas, they're cooked. I hate to say it, but they are cooked. They're going further and further down the PVF standings. It's to the point where San Diego might even surpass them. And San Diego has not been good this season. So that's that for the quick PVF, the Diet Coke version of the PVF Week 15 recap. So Wednesday, we have San Diego Mojo at Columbus Fury. Look, this is kind of I wouldn't say this is the toilet bowl matchup, but if the Mojo want to have any sort of hope of making the PVF playoffs, they're kind of going to need to run the table. I mean, at this point, it's still way too little, far too late, as I just can't imagine the Mojo making the playoffs at this point. Last year, they were even fortunate enough to make the postseason, but against the Fury, it'll be tough. I mean, they did push Atlanta to 5, and they did take down Grand Rapids in 4, but that was in San Diego. Let's see how they play at Nationwide Arena. Then for Thursday, we have the Indy Ignite versus the Vegas Thrill. If Indy ever wants a chance to snap their losing streak, this is the match to do so. I can't imagine the Ignite losing to the Thrill, especially since it's going to be at Fisher's Events Arena or Fisher's Event Center. Then also on Thursday, we have the Omaha Supernovas hosting the Grand Rapids Rise. This looks like this has bounce back written all over it, especially since Omaha needs to lock up the number 1 seed. They haven't locked that up just yet. They've locked up a playoff spot, but not the number 1 seed. And Atlanta's not too far off from them. They're actually, even though Atlanta's played 2 more matches than the Supernovas, Atlanta has the same number of wins as the Supernovas, which I think is pretty crazy if you ask me. Then Friday, we have the Orlando Valkyries at the Columbus Fury. That has bounce back written all over it for Orlando. I know they got swept by Atlanta, but Atlanta has been red hot as of late. I can't imagine the Fury pulling off this monstrative of an upset. I think that the Valkyries, they're due for a bounce back win, and I think they'll get it in a big way. That's on Friday. On Saturday, we have the Indy Ignite at the Grand Rapids Rise. All right, this will be a little bit of a fun matchup. And the crazy thing is that the Grand Rapids Rise are right on the coattails of the Indy Ignite. They're like a few matches behind. They're like 2.5 matches behind the Ignite. But I will say, if the Grand Rapids Rise continue to play good volleyball, then maybe they could surpass the Ignite. Now, the Ignite really got to get back. They got to reignite the fire. And they got to really start playing better volleyball. I'm not saying they're playing bad, but losing to the Rise and the Fury are not ideal. So let's see what the Ignite can do. And then also on Saturday, this is the big matchup. You've got Atlanta Vibe at the Omaha Supernovas. Well, the bigger the matchup, the better Omaha plays. And they're playing at CHI Health Center. So I can't imagine how big of a matchup this is for Atlanta, especially since Atlanta was at least selected to make the postseason. But Omaha, I won't say the pressure's on them just because they're at home and they thrive at home. The pressure's more on Atlanta just because they've got that win streak on their hands, and this is the week for Omaha to get a bounce back week, especially after losing to the Mojo. Then also on Saturday, we have the Vegas Thrill at the San Diego Mojo. Well, again, I'll be surprised if the Thrill managed to beat the Mojo. If they can, then bully for them. But at this point, I just don't see how the Mojo lose this one, especially since the Thrill just don't seem to have that. They just don't seem to have that sauce to them. The Thrill don't have the mojo that they had when they were first place at one point of the PVF. So the Mojo are going to look to try to rewrite some wrongs and take down their West Coast foe. And that'll do it for the Week 16 preview. I know it was the Diet Coke version, but that's kind of it right there. I don't want to be too long with this. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got some high school boys volleyball to discuss and some 3C2A men's volleyball to discuss. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And we are back with the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as The Defining Moment, the flagship show of IE Sports Radio, and Fast Break with Davidson Crooks and Dentarius Locke. A lot going on when it comes to the NBA playoffs as this week begins the playoffs, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. And I'm just going to actually, that ain't it. Just going to move this a little to the left just so there's no glare, but yeah, that's definitely check out Fast Break. So you have that right there, and let's discuss some 3C2A men's volleyball. So we're going to try to make this as short as possible. I don't want to surpass 100 minutes, but it is what it is. So 3C2A men's volleyball. The regular season ended, and there was quite a bit of chaos as Irvine Valley went 5 with Orange Coast last Wednesday, but the Pirates were able to pull out the win. But then Golden West swept Orange Coast to clinch a share of the Southern Coastal Region Conference title, as well as the number 1 seed of the said 3C2A men's volleyball playoffs. And then Orange Coast clinched the number 2 seed. And that was pretty much it. Everything was pretty much expected. So you had that right there. And I thought the win over Orange Coast was such a statement win. And I thought Golden West played practically flawless. They did get a little dicey in set 3, but Aiden Powell, I don't know if any of you knew this, but Aiden Powell actually had committed to Long Beach State. He redshirted his freshman year, and then he decided to go a different direction. He wanted to go back to the junior college route, and Nick Amato, the head coach of Golden West and former Long Beach State alum in terms of men's volleyball, he recruited him. And Golden West also has some other good players on their team. So, in my opinion, Golden West might have the team to win the entire state championship. The last time they wound up winning state was 2013. And honestly, it was just Nick Amato was a freshman back, or not a freshman. He was a senior back in high school, and I was pretty much that was actually my first year that I got involved with 3C2A men's volleyball, and I kind of followed the action. So, in my opinion, Golden West might actually have the team to win this year. But the seedings have been released. Like I mentioned, Golden West was the 1 seed. They'll play Santa Monica. Orange Coast is the 2 seed. They will play Irvine Valley, which I think is going to be a very tough matchup, especially if Irvine Valley serves as tough as they did on last Wednesday. All the quarterfinal matches will be played on Friday, and the higher seed hosts the quarterfinals. And then the semifinals and finals are next Thursday and next Saturday at Orange Coast College. And that's the reason being is because it's Orange Coast College's turn to host. Anyway, and then the 3 seed San Diego Mesa, they host Long Beach City, which I think is going to be that should be another interesting matchup. And then Moore Park Santa Barbara City, that's the rubber match between those two. That'll also be on Friday where Moore Park will host. So, all right. It's now down to 8 teams, and only one shall be named the 3C2A state champion in men's volleyball. So, all right, here are my predictions. So, so let's just go down the line. And I guess y'all will probably pause the video when rewind that back. But Golden West Santa Monica, look, the 2 went 5 the first time around. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I don't think Golden West is that same team that they were previously. I think Golden West is really going to, Santa Monica will probably make it a battle, but Golden West is on a war path. I can't imagine they lose this one. So give me Golden West over Santa Monica. And then Moore Park, Santa Barbara City. Okay, this is where it gets tricky. Moore Park is a very good team. This might be one of their best teams that they've had in a hot minute. They won conference for the first time in, I think, maybe 20 years. They do face a Santa Barbara team that did split with them. But like I mentioned, this is the rubber match between these two teams. And I will say this one's going to be so tricky, but I think Moore Park will just edge out the win. I think Moore Park is a fantastic team. They earned my respect after they wound up taking down Orange Coast in 5 sets, which was their first win in a hot minute. So, excuse me for 1 second. I might have to sneeze. All right. But, yeah, I got Moore Park narrowly beating Santa Barbara. I don't think it's going to be anywhere easy for the Raiders, but I think they just edge out the Vaqueros. And then we've got San Diego Mesa versus Long Beach City. This might be San Diego Mesa's best chance at winning a state title. They've got Julian Montez, they've got Trevor Clark and Logan Shepard. I mean, Clark has just been a workhorse. I mean, obviously he's super tall with that. I think he's like 6'9", if not 6'10", 11. But they probably go as far as he takes them. But if teams figure out to serve him and get him out of his comfort zone and make the setter have to feed it to other players and whatnot, then that can be a little bit troublesome. But I think San Diego Mesa should handle a Long Beach City team that's kind of in a little bit of a rebuild this year. Obviously, a new head coach, some new players. They do have some from last year's team that made the Final Four, but I just don't see Long Beach City getting past San Diego Mesa. It would be, if that were to happen, if Long Beach City were to lose, then it would be the first time since 2015 that Long Beach City would not advance to the 3C2A semifinals. Remember, 2020, 2021, there was no state championship. So it's going to be, it's been a while since we've not seen Long Beach City not make the Final Four, but we shall see. And then lastly, we've got Orange Coast hosting Irvine Valley. These two teams are rivals. I can't really say anything more about that. Irvine Valley is playing much better volleyball as of late. Like if you compared the two sides of the first half of volleyball when it came to their conference play and to earlier in the season, it's not comparable. Irvine Valley has some good studs on their team, and the fact that they even pushed Orange Coast speaks to high volumes that they are a for real team, and they are coached by Rory Jones, former Long Beach State men's volleyball player and assistant coach of Craig Pisanti. But look, Orange Coast, they really need Andrew Kargas back. He has a fractured fibula. He might be back for the semifinals. I can't guarantee that. But in any case, I think Orange Coast wins it. But I can't imagine Irvine Valley is going to get swept. If IVC gets swept, then something is wrong, or either Orange Coast had the night of their lives and they just had an off night against Golden West. So in the semifinals, I would have Golden West versus Moore Park. Look, this one's a no-brainer. As good as Moore Park is, and I give them a lot of credit for this season, Golden West, they're just on a whole other level. And I think Golden West should win. I can't imagine them losing this one. It'll be tricky, though. I think Moore Park will make it a lot more difficult on Golden West, because Golden West has the pressure of basically having some new, like, as good as those players are that I mentioned, those players haven't really been in a match where the stakes are really high. Like, they're starting Owen Banner, AJ Kubrick, Johnny Bronstein, Aiden Powell. They do have some players back from last year's team, like Aaron Green, Joseph Nunez. I forget who else they return. Oh, yeah, they return Jay Pearson, and they have Kai Rodriguez. Kai Rodriguez, for those that don't know, he is from Moanalua, and he was one of the better volleyball players from Hawaii altogether. So I just think with all those players, I can't imagine Golden West losing to Moore Park. Like, the only way Moore Park wins is if they catch Golden West on the worst night. But now that Golden West has a lot of talent on their team, they're going to use that talent to a full extent. So give me the Rustlers over the Raiders. And then lastly, we've got Orange Coast and San Diego Mesa, my projected other semifinal. I can't imagine this one will go 5. I would legit be surprised if Orange Coast swept San Diego Mesa. But in any case, I think the Pirates win. I don't think, and I hope San Diego Mesa does listen to this. I hope for San Diego Mesa's case, their fan base shows up, like a lot of their fans. I know it's a very long drive, but at the same time, I just can't imagine those fans not seeing maybe their best team in program history get a chance to win state. So I got Orange Coast winning, but I imagine they'll go 5. I imagine they'll at least go 4. If Orange Coast sweeps San Diego Mesa, then Travis Turner might be the mastermind. Or it's either the case that San Diego Mesa has to deal with Andrew Kargas. But it's no guarantee he'll return for the semifinals. That's what he's shooting to return for, if not the championship match. So my projected final will be, looking on screen, you've got Orange Coast versus Golden West at Orange Coast College. And who I have winning is basically a two-sided affair. So if Andrew Kargas returns for Orange Coast in time for the championship match, I have Orange Coast winning. Here's my prediction. If Andrew Kargas returns for OCC will win. And that's because he is just Mr. Consistent all season. And I know Orange Coast doesn't have the experienced players that they had last year, but they still have Cam Vakilian. They have Andrew Robbins, Jacob Charette, who was last year's MVP. And I highly doubt Orange Coast is going to be missing a lot of serves, because they missed quite a number of serves in that match against Golden West. So if Andrew Kargas plays in the match against Golden West, Orange Coast will 4-peat. If he doesn't, then I got Golden West winning, because I was convinced that this might be Golden West's year. I'm convinced that this is Golden West, maybe Golden West's best chance to win it all, because I can't imagine the players not leaving after this year. I mean, Golden West will probably get some of their players signed to like teams. Like, I can't imagine Aiden Powell will be at Golden West for 2 years. I mean, I'm surprised he isn't going to get offers right away. But maybe I could see some of the other freshmen staying. But Aiden Powell is just on a whole other level. And I think Kai Rodriguez should probably get some offers as well. But if Andrew Kargas doesn't play for OCC, then I imagine Golden West will win state. Now, here's one thing to also consider. If Golden West plays San Diego Mesa, that's a problem for Golden West because they just don't seem to have the answer for San Diego Mesa. I find it weird that is the case, that San Diego Mesa has beaten Golden West twice this year, and those are the only 2 losses for Golden West. But I can't imagine Golden West doesn't have the answer at this point. But we shall see. I mean, again, my projected final is Golden West, Orange Coast. And then if Andrew Kargas plays, I got OCC winning it all. If Golden West doesn't have to deal with Andrew Kargas, then Golden West will win it all. I know my OCC fans are going to kill me for saying that, but after what I saw on a Friday between Golden West and Orange Coast, I just can't imagine seeing the Pirates finally have the answer. I mean, they're going to need to have some good serve receive, and they're going to need to really lock in against those players. All right, but that is that for the 3C2A men's volleyball side of things. All right, let's jump to some high school boys volleyball. So Craig Bizzanti reached a milestone as a head coach, as last Wednesday he surpassed 1,000 wins as a head coach. So this includes the wins that he had on Mater Dei in terms of girls volleyball, and then Huntington Beach the past 20-ish years on the boys and girls side. And then you also got to include that 121 match win streak that he had with TJ DeFalco and Josh Tuaniga and all those players. Like, Craig Bizzanti has coached a lot of really good players in both boys and girls volleyball. And I've been around for some of his wins and so on and so forth. So congratulations to former Set Point guest Craig Bizzanti on surpassing 1,000 wins as a head coach. Very well deserved. Also, Huntington Beach, as a team, they managed to clinch the Sunset League title outright, as last Wednesday they took down Edison in straight sets, and then last Friday they took down Newport Harbor. It's Huntington Beach's first league title since 2016. It's their first outright league title in 10 years. So Huntington Beach is still probably one of the teams to beat in CIF Southern Section in terms of Division One. The only team that I think can probably beat them is Miracosta, and that's probably going to be the 1 seed. But I think for Huntington Beach, they're just playing some great volleyball. Logan Hutnick is amazing. Nick Gagne is fantastic in the middle. He's not the tallest middle, but he's still pretty darn. He jumps really high in the middle. Then you've got Ben Aguayo, who has been such a solid right side addition. You got Colin Choi, who I think is great. You've got Kai Gann, who's going to Harvard. He's amazing. Aiden Atencio, he's a 4-year starter. He's an anchor for the Oilers offense, or for the Oilers defense. So you have that right there. So this week, in terms of notable tournaments, because some teams are on vacation or on spring break, if you're in California, there's the Clash of the Titans tournament that Punahou is hosting, and then you've got the Redondo Power Classic in California that Redondo Union High is hosting. I imagine Redondo Union is going to be definitely. Redondo Union is a hopeful that'll be in Division One that could probably be a top 4 seed if they play their cards right, barring no upsets in this tournament. And then Corona Del Mar is also partaking in Punahou, in the Punahou Clash of the Titans. Punahou, as we all know, is arguably a juggernaut when it comes to Hawaii boys volleyball and on the high school side of things. I think it's going to be electric, and it's going to be live streamed. I can't imagine that Punahou doesn't live stream this tournament. If they don't, then we have problems. But those are 2 tournaments that you all should be watching for. The CIS Southern section is actually nearing its end, as next week is the final week of the regular season, and then we've got playoffs. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? And then I guess some other notable matches. We had Loyola taking down Mater Dei in 4 sets at Mater Dei. I actually really wanted to go to that one, but it was to no avail. So you have that right there. So that's going to do it for some high school boys volleyball talk. I actually have one more thing to talk about before we sign on out of here, and that was actually the AVP Automat qualifier. So the AVP Huntington Beach qualifier actually was this past weekend, and it was a 16 pair tournament. So single elimination. If you lose, you're out. You're gone forever. Bye-bye. See you next time. And the AVP pair and the winners of each pair were basically decided on that day. I really wanted to go to that, but at the same time, it was like, it's not a qualifier. It wasn't going to be live streamed. at least not to my knowledge, and a media pass wasn't needed. Now, would it have been great to have attended? Yes, but it just wasn't. It wasn't required. It wasn't like a big thing. It wasn't huge and whatnot. So the winner of and this was actually a qualifier for the AVP League. So this wasn't ultimately that big. It wasn't that grand. It was kind of like the Laguna Open, but for the AVP, you had Megan Rice and Corinne Quiggle winning on the women's side, which I thought was really big right there. That was a big win right there for those two. So obviously those two have different partners. That like Megan Rice had her former partner. For Katie Horton, I think that's her name. She went to Florida State. And then Corinne Quiggle had Sarah Schermerhorn before she decided to hang it up and retire and whatnot. So those two are now partnering. And those two are definitely a great combination with one another. I think those two definitely do great as pairs and whatnot. So congratulations to Corinne Quiggle and Megan Rice for qualifying for the AVP League. And then on the men's side of things, you had Logan Weber and Hagen Smith, who qualified on the men's side of things, which I thought was pretty cool, if you ask me. So congratulations to those two. Unfortunately, I didn't really focus too much on this tournament, which I apologize for not focusing and not updating everyone. But I did want to make note of this. I didn't make note of this last week, so I want to get AVP some love, even though I've been hearing some iffy things about them. But it's not anything too bad, but I digress. All right, but that is that for the AVP, that quick little AVP segment right there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I know it went a little longer than expected. I apologize, but we had a lot of volleyball to discuss. But with less volleyball, I will probably have this show a lot shorter than normal. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing week. Enjoy all the volleyball action from the pro level to the high school level to the collegiate level. I'll see you all on Thursday for CSUN, UC Irvine, most likely, until further notice. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Peace!
Yeah.